that America will become a land sharing the fruits of the land, not for the favored few, not to satisfy greed, but that all may live in a land in which the Lord has provided an abundance sufficient for the luxury and convenience of the people in general, I think.
Good evening, everybody. I'm the General. I'm here with the Judge, and we're the Yellowhammers. How you doing, Judge?
I'm great, General. How you doing? Hanging in there this week?
So far, so good. We got a nice spring afternoon right here.
It's gorgeous out there.
At the Yellowhammer headquarters.
And here I am indoors with you.
There we go.
Can we podcast outside, please, teacher?
No. No.
Yeah.
So, Judge, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about whiskey leaks.
Whiskey leaks?
Yeah, have you heard that term?
I have not heard of whiskey leaks.
So that's what they're calling this fiasco with Hegseth on Signal, where, for those of you that don't know, a reporter from The Atlantic gets added into the Houthi PC small group text via Signal. It includes the likes of Mike Walls, Tulsi Gabbard, Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth from DOD. And so they accidentally add that reporter from The Atlantic to what is a top secret, and where they're talking about the strikes that they're about to do on the Houthis in Yemen. That rebel group that's Iran-backed, I think, that's been shooting
official.
us.
This seems very official. Is this part of White House protocol?
Apparently. Well, you know, they say now that, they've learned a lesson, they're going to move on here. And so this reporter, just imagine.
Can I hold you up for a second?
Yeah, please do.
If you're doing this shit on Signal,
yeah,
you don't want any record of it in the official White House or the congressional records database.
True.
This is a bunch of side shit that they can delete later, that if someone comes back and tries to be like, oh my God, y'all did.
Let me produce the official records. Give me the White House tapes. There's nothing.
There's nothing.
Yeah. I mean, never mind, we're conducting top secret,
on fucking Signal.
On a privately owned messaging app that you and I can use. It's unbelievable, the level of incompetency. But anyway, imagine you're this Atlantic reporter, you're sitting at home, you're minding your own business, and all of a sudden you get a Signal friend request. It appears to be from Pete Hegseth. So you accept. A short time later, you're added to the Houthi PC small group text. And then lo and behold, these people start chiming in. There's MAR, Marco Antonio Rubio, I think. There's Tulsi Gabbard, VP, J.D. Vance, and all these people are responding. And it seems to be consistent with how you would expect them to respond. But probably as you would at home, this reporter says, well, this can't be right.
Hold on, would you respond?
I wouldn't have.
Did you just sit there and be like, hey, guys, what's going on? Or would you be like, new to the group here?
I'd have been a fly on the wall. I'd have been like, I don't think this is real. This is a little bit funny, but what if it is? And if I speak up, I'm going to be removed. So I'm going to sit here quietly like a fly on the wall and see what I see. What I feel like any good reporter would do.
Right.
And to this person's credit, and this is like March 14th, the day before these strikes on the Houthis start. And so he's reading through all this stuff where they're debating their conversations with POTUS, the risk, the reward. Should we bomb them now? Should we wait? And eventually they decide to go. Well, the whole time this reporter's reading this and he's thinking, this just can't be real. Well, the next day, what happens? Boom. Just as the group text said they would be. And all of a sudden, this reporter says, holy shit, that was real. And since then, it's broke. And because Hegseth is a raging alcoholic, see earlier episode on Pete Hegseth, they are now calling it whiskey leaks as a riff on.
He got so drunk that he added some random to the damn text thread.
Right.
Oh my God. These are the geniuses in charge of our military.
These people.
Only the best.
You can't make it up.
Only the brightest.
So we got whiskey leaks. And to make it even better, the name aside, the circumstances aside, initially Hegseth says, shit, yeah, that was me, sorry. Then
I heard he came out and denied
so actually, let me back up. He did deny it. and we're going to play the audio of that because I think that's a pretty important thing for us to talk about here. But at the point he had denied it, the White House had already come out and said, yeah, that's authentic. You know, it's not that bad. You know, they weren't really sharing war plans, but that happened.
That was a war plan.
You know, we've learned from it. We're not going to let that happen again. Let's chalk this up to a lesson learned. And then, lo and behold, down comes Pete Hegseth onto the tarmac, and he gets asked about it. And just listen.
Can you share how your information about war plans against the Houthis in Yemen was shared with a journalist in The Atlantic? And were those details classified?
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again, to include the hoaxes of Russia, or the fine people on both sides hoax, or suckers and losers hoax. So this is the guy that peddles in garbage. This is what he does. I would love to comment on the Houthi campaign because of the skill and courage of our troops. I've monitored it very closely from the beginning. And you see, we've been managing 4 years of deferred maintenance under the Trump administration. Our troops, our sailors were getting shot at as targets. Our ships couldn't sail through. And when they did shoot back, it was purely defensively or at shacks in Yemen. President Trump said, no more. We will reestablish deterrence. We will open freedom of navigation, and we will ultimately decimate the Houthis, which is exactly what we're doing as we speak from the beginning, overwhelmingly.
Why were those details shared on Signal, and how did you learn that a journalist was privy to the targets, the types of weapons used?
I've heard I was characterized. Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that. Thank you. I appreciate it.
The NSC said it was authentic. Mr. Secretary.
So let me first ask you. You've seen the video. The people at home have seen the video, or at least heard the video, depending on how you're listening. You've been a drunk person on several occasions, been around drunk people. How did he appear to you?
Oh, he was lit.
Clearly.
He was lit.
He was hammered.
Yeah. And he was on one yelling at the reporter and all that, and he was feeling it.
You know, it's interesting. He gets the question, and what's the very first thing he does? Doesn't answer it.
No.
He attacks the reporter.
Yeah, you go on the attack.
I mean, attack the credibility of the source. Good old ad hominem.
Defense Secretary Hegseth, what do you say about this, signal, intelligence breach in the White House? Well, this reporter's an asshole.
Right.
Like that, if you got nothing, flail about.
Attack the source.
Yeah. Well, no, it's like if you're in a courtroom and you're a lawyer and your client's guilty as all get out, you wave your hands in the air and pound on the desk.
Right.
Like that's
Kick up some dust.
Kick up some dust and like put on a show. Like that's what he's doing. He's yelling, screaming, talking about everything, but the actual fact that they did war plans on Signal and added a reporter.
Right. I mean, he misleads on 3 completely irrelevant things, ducks the question, and then rants about, I don't know, Trump's greatness. So you get nothing there. But why should this matter to people?
It should matter because if you're doing this type, if you're being loosey-goosey with this type of military operation, you're putting the lives of our military servicemen and women in immediate danger.
Mm-hmm.
Because that reporter luckily it was an American reporter this time.
Right. That reporter sat on everything.
Yes.
He sat on the operationally sensitive details to protect American interests.
If that somehow got to the Houthis,
it could have cost lives.
It could have absolutely cost lives. They'd have known the time that the ships were coming in,
mm-hmm.
and they could have launched some of those low-level cruise missiles at them.
So I'm going to anticipate, because some of it's already coming out, what the Trump camp is saying. So if the retort is none of that information was classified, what's your response?
Then if you didn't classify a military operation before it was going on, then you're even more dumber than I thought you were.
I agree with that. And I would also say that even short of being classified, operational security is a thing.
Yes.
OPSEC is a
absolutely.
major issue in the military. It's one of the things that they protect the most.
Well, I feel
Loose
like-
lips sink ships.
Information like this should have been done in
Official government channels.
a skiff,
Yeah.
a secured whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just throw this shit out on Signal.
No,
Like,
at least you
even it
shouldn't.
being on
Apparently
Signal
you can.
is a breach. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell? Like, if Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth on his whatever phone decides to download TikTok or whatever, the Chinese might have all this
Right.
information on Signal.
Every bit of it. If he's been careless with, let's say he gets drunk and he starts clicking on some things he probably shouldn't click on, which, by the way, that's
Oh,
the
you know his phone is eat up with just porn.
with a porn.
Yeah.
It's rancid
It's
with
just
porn.
just destroyed.
Like, you have to wash your hands when you touch that thing.
He's
I
over
completely
here.
agree.
Every
That
time,
thing
he,
is
every
eaten
time he
up
opens
with
it up, he's
malware.
got to like hit like 30,000 X's to click off of it.
He's like checking his browser, make sure he hadn't left anything up. Yeah.
It was anonymous.
I hit it incognito mode, coach.
Incognito.
Yeah, so, God, the blinding incompetence of these people.
Only the best.
Yeah.
The best and brightest use Signal to launch an attack on the Houthis.
And then, you know, to deny it in the shameless way that he did after the White House had already confirmed the authenticity. I mean, just don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining.
If the White House has already come forward and said, yeah, that guy's an idiot, like just, I mean,
Isn't his job to fall on the sword at that point?
Yeah.
Like, oh, my bad.
but I mean, they've learned from Trump, this is always attack, never
Yeah.
admit defeat.
That's it.
Just start lashing out, you know, him saying Russia, 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 throwing his hands up in the air. I was like,
So he says three things there that I'd kind of like to address. He talks about how, oh, this reporter perpetrates hoaxes, and he brought up three of them. The first one was Russia, 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 I think. So he's clearly talking about the James Comey investigation and Russian collusion from 2016.
or the dossier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So going back to Comey, and I'll let you talk about the dossier. My recollection is that Comey never said that Russia didn't interfere in the election to the benefit of Trump. In fact, I think that was conclusively proven.
That was proven in the
Right.
Yeah.
The only thing that they couldn't prove was that Trump knew about it or colluded or asked for the help or was involved with it in any way. It is a fact, an established fact, that the enemies of America, Russia, intervened on his side twice, three times actually, to get him elected, and were successful twice.
It's also a fact that they actually had a meeting in Trump Tower with the Russians before the election.
They just couldn't prove what happened at that meeting.
They couldn't prove what happened at that meeting.
So
But
there's
that meeting
smoke
happened.
everywhere.
Yes.
We know there's fire in Moscow. There's fire in Moscow and it's smoky in Trump Tower.
Yes.
Put two and two together. So when he says Russia, Russia, Russia was a hoax, bullshit.
And he's never come down. He's never opposed Putin in anything that Putin's ever tried to do.
You know, Americans are up in arms about what's happening in Ukraine right now. Why is it that after 80 years of foreign policy where Russia has been our avowed enemy, from Truman to Eisenhower, all the way through
Ronnie Reagan.
fucking Reagan, all the way through, honestly, it picked back up with Obama.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Bush looked into Putin's soul and he was a good guy.
He was a good guy. And then he invaded Crimea.
So the idea that Russia is a hoax is a lie in and of itself. And then there's the Charlottesville comments. You want to take a swing at those?
The both sides?
Yeah, very fine people on both sides.
Well,
Because the right says it's a hoax.
that Trump said that.
He did say that.
Like, there's no, I've got the video, I've seen it. But the very fine people on both sides were, one side were white supremacists, the other side were counter protesters. And they were marching down the street with tiki torches saying that Jews will not
replace us. And so that was the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville. The flyer had Confederate and Nazi imagery on it.
How do you think those Nazis feel about the backing of Israel?
They don't. I don't know very many Nazis from which to have an educated guess about that. Traditional
Like the good
Traditional-
old-fashioned Nazis. would
traditional
not like
wisdom would say, obviously that they wouldn't be happy about it. But we're
that.
talking
I'm
about
talking like a pure Aryan Nazi, like
Yeah.
an old school.
oh man, they'd be up in arms about
Yeah.
it, right?
But this new brand of Nazis, they're more like a soft. They're a soft
but it's-
authoritarian, but
and they also have a bit of a Christian bent to them,
yes.
right? And so part of me wonders if that colors their opinion of Israel religiously to a certain degree.
Where they think it's
Maybe they're somehow religiously mandated not to be as like hateful or openly anti.
because I mean the churches have been preaching that if Israel's created, then the end of times is coming.
Yeah, you got to support Israel. They're
yeah.
God's people. We got to go with them,
Right.
right? I mean, that's preached in evangelical circles in the South. We've all heard it.
Yeah.
It's my grandparents. Like anytime we talk about the Middle East, they're like, well, the Lord says, maybe, but he hadn't had a conversation with me about it.
But like these new brand of Nazis, the
Proud Boys, the
Proud
Muscovites,
Boys,
yeah.
the Elons, they tend
So
to
I don't think Nazi is the right word. Some of them are. I think the right word is fascist.
authoritarian fascists. Yeah.
Yeah, techno-fascists.
Techno-fascists. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That sounds like a really fun disco club.
It does. God, if we ever start like an EDM group, we're going to be the techno-fascists.
Our way or the highway.
Yeah, that's it. We dress in like, I don't know. I'm going to leave that one alone before we get canceled. So the Charlottesville thing, they claim is a hoax because the argument is, Donald Trump never said. So I looked at it extensively yesterday, read the whole transcript, watched the video. And so what they push back is this claim that Trump never denounced the Nazis at Charlottesville. And he does in the interview. He says, I'm not talking about the Nazis. I'm not talking about the white supremacists. They're pieces of shit, right? But for the reporters to get that out of him, it's like pulling teeth.
Right.
They really have to pin him down to get him to say it.
He knows they're a core voting group.
100%. And he's trying to avoid offending them. Then what happens is he does make the very fine people statement. He says it. But the argument is, he had previously separated the Nazis and the white supremacists from that statement. But here's my question for you. If you're sitting at dinner, you're at a dinner of 12 people, and 11 of them are Nazis, what are you?
You're a Nazi.
You're a Nazi.
Yeah.
So the idea that these people weren't white supremacists, look at the fucking flyer. Look at what they were chanting. Would any person... Is there any chance you would go stand with those people?
No, absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
And I don't think if you were taking up the same side of the fight as skinheads carrying tiki torches and saying Jews will not replace us, guess what, Chief? You're on shaky moral ground. And that's where Trump was.
Yes, he was. Yeah.
And so this idea that it's a hoax is so disingenuous. It misses the whole point. Misses the forest for the trees.
Well, it's revisionist history.
It absolutely is.
They're trying to go back and repaint one of Trump's greatest gaffes
Yeah.
as
He denounced him. He did what he was supposed
Yeah.
to do. He stood up for what was right. No, he didn't.
But let's attack a reporter who covered it fair,
Yeah.
because that's what he said. He said there are very fine people on both sides, and one of those sides were Nazis.
And so literally, and I forget what the other one was that Hegseth talked about there, but not only does he attack the reporter, but then he proceeds to gaslight you about the other three issues.
Yeah.
And that's the entire MO of this administration. And that's what they're going to do about this Houthi thing.
What's it called? A gish gallop?
I don't know what that is.
It's a talking term where someone asks you a question, you talk about everything else but the question.
Yeah.
And you just kind of, move around, dodge it.
Look, he learned that from Trump. Trump's the best at it.
Well, every politician does it to a degree.
They do. They do.
It keeps them.
That's a fact.
Answering hard questions is how you lose elections.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he got off the plane drunk, acting like a complete ass. even though he clearly, in his first 3 months as Secretary of Defense, made a huge mistake of adding a random reporter to a signal group that was going to talk about a military strike plan.
The last thing that I want to talk about on this subject, and if you got anything else, we'll get into it. Hillary's emails. Do you remember
Listen,
that?
can we go back to like what is going to happen with Hillary's emails?
I mean, I
Are
don't
we
know
gonna
why
prosecute her
Listen,
on that?
listen. All I know is if
Like,
you
listen,
conduct
Trump is in power right now.
right,
Like he's got
lock her up.
lock her up.
I mean, all I'm saying is we Republicans have been consistent since 2016. If you conduct government business on private, non-secured email services, you're violating the Espionage Act.
That was a clear.
You need to be
Yes.
prosecuted.
Yes.
No one's above the law.
No one's above the law, and we need to go get Hillary now.
Now,
Now,
get her.
I know the statute of limitations is not run on that.
So here's my question. Are those two things equivalent? Hillary's email situation and Hegseth's OPSEC blunder via Signal.
I would say somewhat yes. I would say emails.
Because we're both talking about communication on non-secure servers.
Yes.
Right. So when we say non-secure, the government gets hacked
Yes.
on a regular basis
Yes.
by like state and non-state actors. So when we say secure, that term is relative.
Yes. But a non-secure server is something off-site
Yeah.
of previously designated server areas for administration people to talk.
To me, it just means not secured and managed by the government.
Right. Which is, if you're going to launch a military strike, that absolutely
You need to
has
stay
be-
within official channels.
Yes.
And to your point, that sort of thing should be discoverable for posterity. And what they're doing is they're ensuring by doing it on Signal that whatever they got
That'll-
going on
yeah.
is not traceable. You're never going to see it.
They're going to move it. They're going to delete everything. And,
Right.
You know, I don't know.
So, does it matter that? So the people that got the Hillary emails were Russia. They hacked them, right? They hacked the DNC.
Right.
So
They also hacked the RNC.
True.
And we don't know
What they got there.
What they got there.
You know why? Because they didn't want to hurt the Republicans.
Yeah, because Republicans caved to everything Russia wanted.
Right. So
I know this because we had five senators fly over there on the 4th of July to meet the Russians,
they just had a barbecue, General.
and then they came back and
Had a little high quality vodka, little barbecue, maybe hunted a bear while they were
Dick
over
Shelby
there.
was on that flight.
Was he?
Yeah,
Old tricky Dick.
Dick Shelby was on that flight over there, and he came back and nothing happened.
So, does it matter to you that the leak that happened via the private unsecure Signal server was due to Hegseth or whomever's negligence, and that Hillary was the victim of a bad actor? Does that make a difference to you?
No. As soon as you move it off site, I believe that.
I mean,
whatever
clearly
happened-
it's not best practices.
yes.
But I guess what I'm asking is, because to me that seems like varying degrees. You know, Hillary was at all times, given everything that we know, and if it was different, by God, we'd have heard about it, because they went after on that for 8 years now, 9. So Hillary clearly didn't act in any way as to increase the likelihood that these non-secured things would get out. She didn't add anybody. She didn't communicate to anyone outside of like
She
the
wasn't
permitted
stupid
knowledge
about
circle.
it.
She wasn't stupid about it.
No. Hegseth is stupid about it.
This is blindingly incompetent.
Yes.
I think both reflect a lapse in judgment that you should be communicating about these things on secure government servers. However, only one of those people were directly responsible for the OPSEC leak.
But if Hillary somehow added, little Kim,
Yeah.
to the group chat.
Or even,
Or like the-
let's make it equivalent. Let's make it Sean Hannity.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
A conservative American journalist,
That would be
quote unquote
that
journalist.
would be equivalent. And then she's like, "Oh yeah, we're about to take out.
Yes.
Yeah, we're." Obama would strike Syria. We're about to.
The Arab Spring was going on at the time,
Libya.
so we're hitting Gaddafi's folks.
So if she said something along the lines of like, we're about to, told Sean Hannity we're about to strike,
What would Sean
or whatever?
Yeah, what would Sean Hannity have done? You think he would have sat on that for a few days?
Hell no. It'd been the leading story the next night.
Immediately, he'd have went live on Twitter and been
Listen
like,
here,
"Look what
America,
I got."
The devil sent me this.
Yeah, I think it is
How
one
can
of
you act like a strong, independent man
yeah.
and wear makeup every night?
I'm gonna be honest with you. If I was on TV, I'd let him powder me up a bit too. I think.
There was one of them, Jesse Waters. Is
Yeah.
that one of those new assholes?
He's the one that replaced
Tucker
maybe, or did he replace the guy that
O'Reilly?
got? So I was thinking the guy that got terminated. Was it Chris Wallace?
Chris Wallace was the.
He used to be on the morning.
That was the standard news guy. Like he was a news guy.
Yeah. But I thought
Tried
Jesse
to be.
Waters sort of started there on the weekend, like taking
he?
over for him. I'm not sure.
No, he was always an opinion.
Was he?
Yeah.
One of these spin doctors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. By the way, if you folks don't know this, if you're watching primetime cable news, you're being entertained, not informed.
That's exactly right.
I don't turn that shit on.
It's the worst.
It is the absolute worst. It is stoking rage, stoking fear, which honestly, there's a lot to be afraid about right
But
now.
they don't even get to the real issues. It's a
They
bunch
don't.
of people yelling at each other over.
It's performative
remote.
outrage.
Yeah. Like, you don't get like, all right, why is this happening? Who's this happening to? What
Let's
are the
go a
consequences?
level or two deeper here.
No, I'm going to yell at you. You're going to yell at me. We're going to call each other idiots, and the segment's over.
The news is going to a reporter who spent days covering and developing a story to give you all the angles.
Correct.
Opinion is a bunch of people sitting around a desk yelling at each other.
And
And we as America has gotten confused about
there's
which
a
is
judicial ruling that says Fox News is not news.
which. Is not news. They even put in their pleading that they're not news.
They're not news.
No one could be dumb enough to believe this is news.
Yeah.
It's clearly entertainment.
Clearly entertainment. It's not news. Not the name Fox News. That doesn't matter.
Right.
it's clearly entertainment.
But yeah, that's it on Hexeth for me, and Whiskey Leaks, which I think is the best name
Whiskey
of a political
Leaks is a
scandal
really good,
ever.
really good name for putting something on Signal and having it. Oh,
Especially when you're a raging alcoholic, who when you give your denial, you essentially stumble off the plane.
but like,
And seriously, y'all, watch his mannerisms, and if you don't think he's drunk, yeah, well, you've not met very many drunk people.
but the sheer incompetence of putting people like this in power
Yeah,
and them not having the self-respect to do things the right way. It just shows the lack of. It shows the lack of honor and dignity they have for the service they're performing,
yeah.
and they're not there to help Alabamians. That they're there to help themselves, and it's selfish. Everyone up there right now on Capitol Hill is selfish, and we need to do something. We got to change that.
We're working on it.
Well, anyways, I'm the general.
And I'm the judge.
We'll talk to y'all later.